So, in the next few minutes, I'm afraid I'll have more questions, I think, than answers, because the issues swirling around our employment landscape are currently so complex, and we are in a time of such enormous change that it is impossible to know where it will all end and who it will benefit. So, I'll start with a question. Do you now, or did you ever, live to work or work to live? I suspect the answer will be largely determined by when you were born. My father's generation believed that a good day's work was reason enough to get out of bed in the morning, and if their weekends contained a little downtime in the pub or the garden, even better. They defined themselves largely by the satisfaction of their work, and a job was for life, not just to save enough money for a gap year. Today's youngsters see the world differently. They want to work smart, not hard, making as much money in as short a time as possible. And when you put it like that, they sound like the sensible ones. The under-30s have woken up to the fact that generations above them made lots of money for other people. The social contract that their parents entered into now all too often looks broken. Hard work, they realise, doesn't always equal financial success or security. To this generation, fat cat bonuses look unfair. Their elders were vulnerable, unsettled by 2 recessions, and are now skating on thin ice again as the cost of living crisis grips ever tighter. A couple of months ago, Elite Business magazine published a report stating that Generation Z entrepreneurs, that's ages 16 to 24, are leading the post-COVID recovery in the UK with their imaginative hustles, Amazon reselling, flipping designer clothes on apps such as Depop, investing in crypto, or inventing their own cosmetic lines for TikTok. Among the country's sole traders, this age group are the only ones to have experienced annual increases in revenue during the pandemic. It's annoying if you're a boss, but it's no wonder that today's youth stand up to their employers in a way that no previous generation has. But it's not just the very young. Ask any employer right now, and they speak of half-full offices and a work-from-home culture that I imagine will never be completely undone. Perhaps this is a triumph for everyone as we get a work-life blend which will make us all happier and less stressed out. But if you work from home, it's entirely possible to give the job of a man in Bangor to a bloke in Bangkok. A whole team in Dublin could be swapped for one in Dubai. So be careful what you wish for. In economic terms, what we're experiencing is the fourth industrial revolution. But for some reason, the government don't explicitly mention this unless they're chatting to the Davos mates. I don't know why. Perhaps you might then ask whether the changes they are planning will improve your life, and that might be tricky for them to answer. When Matt Hancock delivered a speech in the House of Commons in celebration of the fourth industrial revolution in 2017, he said, and I quote, "If you don't much like change, I'm afraid I don't have so much good news. Our goal," he said, "must be to automate work, but humanise jobs, allow machines to do the dangerous, boring and repetitive, and ensure we humans have the capacity to do the creative, empathetic and interactive." Now, that sounds great in principle, but I was chatting to the lady on the till this week at my local supermarket. For some isolated folk, that conversation might be the only one they have all week, remember? And she told me that they were moving to more automated checkouts. You see, she said, one person can then manage 10 tills. I do hope that Matt Hancock and his fellow MPs have plans for the creative and empathetic jobs which the sacked 9 people will now need. Maybe the universal basic income currently being trialled in parts of Wales will be the answer. I don't know. Our transport sector is only one of several industries currently beset with strikes. Discontent is getting louder by the day. Driverless cars, planes and trains are speeding over the horizon towards us. You may have heard the World Economic Forum's much taunted ambition for humanity. By 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy. It sends chills down spines of the informed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we will be destitute and delighted. It means that we are moving towards a service and subscription model in which everything is rented: cars, bikes, music we listen to, or the films we watch. It's easy to see this discussion as the Luddites versus the technophiles, the forward thinkers versus the nostalgic types harking back to the good old days. And I don't know who has it right. But the more you see the world from the perspective of the young digital natives, the more you realise they're too clever and too determined to make the same mistakes that we did. Maybe we should be taking notes from them.